As an introduction, my name is Michael, and I'm one of the co-founders of Hummingbot. We're an open source framework that helps people build crypto trading bots. There's actually a lot of us here because we're a remote team spread out all over the world. So we also decided to use this conference and hackathon as just an offsite for our team in North America and South America. We also have folks here from Australia as well. So if you guys have any questions, just feel free to just find any of the folks wearing Hummingbot swag, just ask us any questions you want. So today, what I want to do was just really try to explain, just educate and explain how this crypto exchange industry works, which is a really important part of the crypto world. And I also want to explain the role that trading bots play in the exchange ecosystem, because it's something that we know a lot about, but I think it's very misunderstood out there. And then finally, I'll talk about kind of like how Hummingbot works and how you can use Hummingbot to build basically any kind of trading bot you want out there. So let's start with a few definitions. What is an exchange? So I always use this analogy of a bazaar, or I guess a flea market to us uncultured Americans, to explain what an exchange really is. Because when you go to a bazaar, yes, you go there as shoppers to buy stuff, but what really makes a bazaar great are the merchants. Because like the merchants selling all kinds of diverse goods is really why you want to go to a bazaar. And for the merchants, it's similar. They need the shoppers for them to kind of set up their stalls and sell their wares. So essentially, a bazaar is a two-sided marketplace between the merchants and the shoppers, right? And both are really needed to create a good experience for both parties. And an exchange actually works exactly the same way, because most people really just see an exchange as traders. We come to the exchange to buy and sell equities, to buy and sell tokens in the case of crypto. But there's also a really other important party called the market maker, or the maker for short. And the market makers are just like the merchants. They're the ones who are providing liquidity in case of orders, and that allows you as traders, or takers as we call it, to come along and have a good experience. So just like a bazaar is a two-sided marketplace between merchants and shoppers, an exchange is a two-sided marketplace between makers and takers. In fact, this was actually one of the first exchanges. And you can see it doesn't look that different from the bazaar. This was New York City around 1900. And the people you see on the street there are some of the original market makers. And so each of them were basically making a market for early stocks. So they would stand around waving the pieces of paper, and you would go up to them and buy and sell stocks from them. And then one day they said, why are we standing on the street? It's kind of cold, it's kind of rainy. Let's find a building and go inside and let's set up shop together. And so that's what they did. They found a building next door called Exchange Place, and they all went there and set up shop, and that became the New York Stock Exchange. But because of that, because the makers were the ones that created the NYSE, it wasn't really in their interest to let other makers come on board. And so even to this day, the NYSE and most exchanges in traditional finance don't really allow other market makers to freely come on board. They really tightly control it. That's why there's this concept called designated market makers. And you have to have lots of money and all these licenses to be one. And that's actually why Wall Street is the way it is. It's kind of a closed form ecosystem. But then crypto came along, and people realized that an exchange is just a program. You can just deploy a program onto the internet or the blockchain, and that can be an exchange. And so that's why exchanges in the crypto industry are pure play. It's like they're pure just digital venues where anyone can be a maker and anyone can be a taker. They're all the APIs are open endpoints, and all the smart contracts are open as well. So because of that, now we've had this massive Cambrian explosion of exchanges all over the world of different types, centralized and decentralized, trading both spot markets and derivative markets all over the world. This slide was actually about 2 years old. So actually, since then, I just haven't had the time to update it. And if I did, this page would be like filled with thousands of logos. And we're only at the very beginning. Because crypto and blockchain are technologies that allow any developer anywhere in the world to build anything, the level of invention that we're seeing is tremendous. And there's really an infinite number of models of exchanges out there. There's an infinite variation in terms of financial products. And what we're seeing now is the unlock of developers to actually experiment in finance for the first time. So instead of having to do exactly how people did things for hundreds of years, now we can build anything we want. So that's why exchanges are a really exciting area in crypto. And so I hope that provides a slight explanation. But now let me talk about what is a bot? What is a trading bot? So the way I explain it is that a trading bot is just a process, a computer program that loops continually. And so the simplest type of trading bot you can think of is just a program that loops and does two things. First, it goes out and fetches data from an exchange, and then it makes a decision. It's like, what should I do? And then once it's made a decision, it goes out and executes transactions on an exchange. And then it just loops, does that over and over again until the process is stopped, or or there's a bug and it stops by itself or it crashes, which is actually what typically happens. So that's why that's a bot. But the thing is, bots, importantly, are local clients. A bot is not a protocol. A bot is not some, or it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be some program you're kind of like you're using running out there on the internet. And the reason is because in order to execute these transactions, in order to be able to automate a series of blockchain exchange transactions, it needs access to your keys, your API keys, or your wallet, blockchain private keys. And so because of that, you don't want to have your keys to some authorized, some random person on the internet and give it to them and have that person do it for you. Because then, if you don't know who that person is, that person can steal all your money. Instead, you want to have the bot running locally on your own machine, on a machine you trust, either on your local computer or on a cloud server you control. And that is how you keep your secrets private, but your bot is still out there and able to execute any transaction on any exchange in the world. So who runs bots? I think a lot of people, maybe before today, you thought of bots as being run by like evil hackers. And I must admit that there are some of those out there. But the reality is that many of the bot developers and traders out there are just ordinary people like you and me. A lot of our users are just like that guy, he has lots of monitors, he's sitting in his own home office, got the drum set, the drum set's key, and he's just trying to make a side income on the side for himself, supplementing his day job. And then if that person starts making money, gets more successful, he or she will go out and hire his friends. And then they expand their operations, they get a larger room with more monitors and maybe a guitar as well, and a band or something like that. And now they turn it into a full-fledged, high-frequency trading firm. And that is actually how the largest trading firms in the world get started, like Jump Trading, Citadel. They all started as a single quant trader who gradually got bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's these people that are running bots. But because they're frankly like bots are needed out there, what you find is you have market-making firms, trading firms running bots, but you also have the people who issue their own tokens, and the exchanges themselves also run bots. So pretty much what we found is everyone in crypto runs bots. But and bots actually play a really important role. in terms of exchanges. And let me explain now how bots actually interact with exchanges. So this is like probably the most classic type of exchange, which is called an order book exchange. And the way that works is, remember I talked about makers and takers. The makers are the people who provide liquidity. So what you're really doing is you're basically placing an order on the order book. So it's like, you're saying like, let's say the price right now is like $11,000. So you might say, I'm willing to buy, maybe 1% lower than that market price. So I'll put a buy order on the order book lower. And then I'm also willing to sell. If someone wants to sell, I also want to sell if the price goes higher. So I'll put a sell order higher. And so typically as a market maker, on an order exchange, you basically place two orders and you basically bracket the mid price and you keep on refreshing those orders as the market moves around. And it's important for you to have that bot to refresh your orders because the market's going to change, right? And you don't want to have stale orders on the order book, because that's going to cost you money. So what ends up happening on an order book exchange is that the makers are the bots, and the takers are the average traders. Does that make sense? And so this is basically what a market making bot does. As I said, it's a bot that's just a process. So the market making bot, every loop, is going to fetch the order book from the exchange, make some decisions, and decide if it has to refresh the orders that it has out there on the order book. But in crypto, because remember, people are creating all kinds of random exchanges and they're all new, there's actually another type of exchange that has gotten really popular in the crypto industry, and that's called an AMM, or an automatic market maker. And so I won't get into the math, but it's really cool how it works because basically the math in terms of how the exchange works is all encapsulated in the smart contract. So what that means is when you go to an AMM, any amount that you want to buy or sell, there's always going to be a price. And you don't need an order book to make it happen. You don't need market makers to post orders on the order book for you to have liquidity. Instead, the math in the smart contract does all that for you. And that's why AMMs have gotten really popular on blockchains. Because blockchains, every transaction costs gas, so it's expensive. And so that's why order book exchanges are really hard to make work in the blockchain, on a blockchain. Instead, now the most popular decentralized exchanges are mostly this AMM model. So if you've heard of exchanges like Uniswap or Curve or SushiSwap, they're all AMMs. But there's a catch, right? Nothing's for free. And the catch is that because it's a smart contract and you're providing liquidity, every maker has the exact same exposure, and you can't change your kind of price afterwards. Instead, the only way that prices can change on an AMM is through arbitrage. Basically, it's like this exchange, it's fixed, and then if the market price changes, that creates an arbitrage opportunity. So whenever someone trades, that moves the price. So what ends up happening is that this is now today, most of the takers, the people who are coming and consuming the liquidity provided by the makers, those are all bots. Why? Because there's so many AMMs now, they're all kind of like all these different blockchains are kind of hard to use, and the only way they can change is through arbitrage. So now we have this weird situation in crypto where basically like the bots on AMMs are the takers, but the bots on the order book exchanges are the makers. So just to finish the loop, here's what an arbitrage bot looks like. Typically, if I run an arbitrage bot, I'm fetching prices from two different exchanges, and I'm just looking for opportunities to buy low on one exchange, sell at a higher price on the other exchange, and lock in an arbitrage profit. So this is basically the situation right now. We have this weird status quo in the crypto landscape where on the order book exchange, we're typically centralized. The makers are the bots, the takers are retail traders. But on the AMM exchange, the makers are retail traders and the takers are the bots. But my main takeaway is basically, if you're running Exchange, you basically need a bot. And that's why for Hummingbot, our natural partners, a lot of them are the exchanges themselves. But there's other type of bots, because a bot is just any type of computer program, really. And so you have bots like mirroring bots, which are ones where it's like a combination of market making arbitrage, where you're providing liquidity on one exchange, but anytime you get filled, you hedge your exposure by taking on another exchange. You have liquidation bots where a lot of the margin-based futures exchanges, they rely on liquidations. So you can go in, liquidate a position and go sell it somewhere else and lock in a profit. We also have what's called smart order routing bots, where it's like, let's say you want to buy or sell a big chunk of tokens. You may not want to do that on one exchange because your price is not going to be very good, and you might impact the price because you're buying or selling in block. So you can spread out your order across different venues and really lower that cost of execution. But there's an infinite combination. There's rebalancing bots, and now we're starting to see NFT bots as well. Bots that are buying, selling NFTs on different marketplaces. And so it's because bots are just programs, and because before we did this, there weren't a lot of bots. And we wrote this white paper about 3 years ago. And originally, we were focused on just market-making bots specifically. And the problem we're trying to solve was that there weren't a lot of market makers out there. Because to be a market maker, you need to run a bot. And running this automated computer process using WebSocket connections on exchanges with very poorly documented APIs was hard. And what we found was we were doing it ourselves because we were running a hedge fund. And so we had spent weeks building integrations to Coinbase and Binance. But every single other trading firm, every single other individual bot developer was doing the exact same thing and reinventing the wheel. So we decided to just write a white paper about it. And then a couple months later, we released the first version of Hummingbot. So it looks like this. It's a command line application. So the code is totally open on GitHub. And you basically download the software, you run it, you plug in your API keys and your private keys, and you hit start. And now you're running a bot. And so we've always really focused on backend, really building seamless WebSocket integrations, exchanges. So as you can tell, we haven't focused too much on the front end, and right now it actually still looks more or less the same. But what we found is that there's an incredible community of people who want to contribute in to the open source project. So 3 years later, today we have the largest quant trader community in crypto. We have 17,000 people on Discord. Lots of people watch our videos on YouTube, and lots of people have forked our code base for whatever they want. And for us, we've also found a way to sustain the project by operating a few different lines of business. So now we are a 70-person global team across 22 different countries. And so those green areas are basically everywhere in the world where we have team members, and a lot of them are here today, actually. But Hummingbot's also become an essential component of the tech stack for many of the institutions in crypto. Many of the token projects, because hiring a market makers are basically hedge funds, and a lot of token projects don't want to hire a market maker, or they just can't afford to. So a lot of the smaller token issuers just run our software, provide liquidity to their own tokens instead of hiring a market maker. And even if you're a market maker, you got to run some software yourself too. You got to build your stuff, build your own stack. So many of the market making firms, including some of the largest firms in the industry, run their businesses on top of Hummingbot. And so today, Hummingbot has become a public good, infrastructure that bridges the centralized exchange world and the decentralized exchange world, because all we're doing is providing reusable infrastructure to any exchange that developers and traders can build on top of. And our business And we've also found a really, I think, sustainable and a business model that makes sense. Because similar to other open source companies like, like Linux, Red Hat, Kafka, Confluent, or Apache Spark and Databricks, we have a separation between the open source project. Open source project is now housed in a nonprofit foundation called the Hummingbot Foundation. And it's the foundation's job to grow the user base horizontally, to add as many Exchange connectors as possible, to add as many users as possible, and to basically just expand the power and reach of the open source code base. And so today, this is actually the first hackathon the Hummingbot Foundation is sponsoring, because our community has authorized 1 million HBOT tokens as a prize pool for ETH Portland. So, if you, and we have a couple of new components that you guys can build toward. One is decentralized Exchange connectors. We just introduced the first decentralized Exchange connectors in Hummingbot to Uniswap and to on Ethereum and Pangolin on Avalanche. And because we have these templates out there, anyone can build connectors to new decentralized exchanges, and that's one track. And the other track is we have a new component called scripts that are very simple chunks of Python code that allow you to create any type of automated trading strategy in a few lines of code that operate across any of our Exchange connectors. So this is also a very new component, but we think that it will really unlock the power of creativity for developers everywhere. Meanwhile, CoinAlpha, the original parent company, is a for-profit business that serves all the institutions and power users of Hummingbot. So if you're trying to run 100 different bots, if you need reporting, if you need auditing, if you need if you're operating on a team environment, or you need support and services, CoinAlpha is going to provide all the tooling and the products and services that serves those customers. And so that's why I think this is a really sustainable model for development for Hummingbot and our ecosystem. And what we're really building is we're building an ecosystem centered around liquidity. Because what we found is that whether you're an exchange, whether you're a token issuer, or whether you're a market maker, it's your job to provide liquidity, and your business depends on providing liquidity, and you need software to make it happen. And we're the trusted software solution for liquidity in the market. But this is and actually we have a new product coming out called Prime. It's this new professional layer on top of Hummingbot. So yeah, we have a prototype. And if you want to give us feedback, find any of the Hummingbot people in the room, and we'd love to get your feedback on this new product we're launching as well. But finally, this is the real mission for us as an ecosystem, which is we want to open source high-frequency trading and make that available to anyone in the world. Why? Because that'd be fucking awesome to do, right? But let me close by just telling a couple of stories, because for me, it's really about the two stories I think will illustrate why I'm up here and why Hummingbot is my life's work. So when we first started a few years ago, we were looking, we were trying to validate if this made sense. And so we had this user. She's a woman based in Russia. Her name is Vic, and she's a microelectronics engineer. And I don't know how she found our project, but she went on our Discord and she was posting all these things about all these different things she was doing with our project. She even posted a Jupyter notebook that helped everyone in the community analyze their trades. And so we interviewed her. And we talked to her and we said, how do you find us? What are you doing with Hummingbot? And what we found was she was making a really meaningful side income for herself and her family using our open source software. And actually, I was thinking of her today because I realized I haven't talked to her in maybe 5 or 6 months. And honestly, I don't know where she is today because she's in Russia. And as we all know, lots of things are happening there. So wherever she is, I hope she's safe. But it was really her interview and her example and how she contributed to the open source code base that really inspired us to build this project and get it out there to everyone in the world. And my second story is, and then we were posting bounties because we were trying to get the community to build connectors for Hummingbot. And this one person picked up the bounty. His name is Victor, and he was based in Lagos, Nigeria. So he built the original KuCoin connector for Hummingbot. We ended up hiring him, and he's been working for us for the last 3 years. He lives in, he's a young guy, probably 23, 24 years old, and he lives in this, in the outskirts of Lagos, Nigeria, building, high, like the cutting edge engineering technology for Hummingbot. And so one of the things we recently created a subsidiary in Canada, and I'm really grateful that we're able to now have Victor move to Canada from Nigeria, and he's going to be leading the Coin office in Canada. And so I say that because to me, I think that this is the best way that we can actually help people all over the world achieve financial freedom for themselves and their families. And that's why Hummingbot is my life's work. So I ask you, please, whether you're today or like in the future, please consider building on top of Hummingbot and contributing to the open source repository, because it's my mission to build something together that will last forever. Thank you.